Look firstly at this scene here. Look at this. Nova Scotia is just so beautiful. We're just shy of 45 degrees north here, and the evenings get these wonderful colors, and oftentimes like kind of magentas and indigos and beautiful colors. So this is Princess Inlet. I used to live in the house that's through the trees up on the top of the hill over there, and since I lived here, like more and more houses are getting built here. So time to get out of here, because I'm someone who likes my privacy. But the mooring here is fantastic. Now this weekend it got tested a little bit. We had 25, 30 knots over the anchorage. We drove down quickly and had a look and made sure everything was kind of okay from the shore, but there's not much you can do. You have to trust your hardware. If you haven't heard it already, I did a podcast, which all of the Mariner podcasts are now here on YouTube, right? They're a bit boring because there's nothing to see, but one of them is all about high winds at moorings, and it's all about this mooring and what's down here. Look at this, isn't it beautiful? Look, some duck or osprey or loon or something came and crapped all over my deck, but it's absolutely still here tonight. But down below there, 10,000 kilos of concrete connected by about 60 feet of 1-inch ship's chain, and then a high test chain coming up to the mooring here. And I don't have a mooring buoy here because it seems so often I think the mooring buoy ends up like in the middle of what the yacht club's doing. So it's got little floats which are now up on deck here. And then this massive 14mm Dyneema rope that's attaching the boat to it. So for a boat that only weighs 25,000 kilos, this mooring's perfect. But the place where I am is very good for the soul. So what have we been doing today? Actually, I'll just open this up. I was just in the sail locker, and it's a bit musty in there. Okay, so wind kind of kept ragging at our boom cover here. There really is just a pattern now for whatever comes next. As we said before, this is just here to keep things covered up from the ospreys. I did also discover that I left a cup of tea on deck in 35 knots over the weekend, and it was fine. Which is funny, because on a flat day with your family in the cockpit, the tea loves to throw itself everywhere, but leave it on deck on its own and it's completely fine. So solar panels are kind of ongoing. I'm a bit stuck because I need the waterproof connectors with the adhesive inside so I can finish that job off. I've been taking off the cockpit bags, which normally go around here. You can see them here. If you feel bad about your cockpit bags, look, hey, everyone's in the same package. They're a real mess. These unfortunately end up getting trashed by, as you walk out the cockpit and back into the cockpit. I've often thought about having like a kind of more of a kind of like a solid bar that holds the mouth of the bag open, so you can really chuck rope in there. But I think I'm going to go a different way, actually. I'll show you what I've got. On my Open 60, instead of having cockpit bags for the ropes, it's got these like little hold all things, rope holders. Let me grab a handful of them here. This boat, if you're going to get a rope that comes into the cockpit, you can sometimes get a rope that's like a 2-to-1 halyard that's 200 feet long in the cockpit. So trying to get it in one of these bags is basically impossible. Then you end up like flaky on the floor. So these guys have a little hook you can see on the top there. They come with a little piece of string, but you tend to replace this out with a piece of like Dyneema, and then a piece of elastic on beyond that. So you can hook with the Dyneema the piece of rope that you intend to be in this area, and then there's still a second bit of something hanging down, a piece of bungee, and you can hook that on as well if you've got extra ropes. A bit more tricky over here. I might go for like a bag that's in this area and maybe even under the cockpit. Under the companionway rather. I've seen that on images of these boats from like back in the day when they raced. The other thing we're missing, there should be, I'll explain what this is in a second, there should be some kind of like fence here so that lines can't find their way out past the traveller. But these are little things, we'll get to in time. The mats are because I've had them over all winter over these port lights on the deck, which all look a bit messy now. The original idea at the end of last year was, hey, we'll quickly whip out the Lexan, replace it, and then it'll be great for the winter. And as soon as I started to do that, I realized the temperature has already dropped to a point where or certainly the day I was here, it was cold enough where I wasn't going to be running the Sikaflex in successfully. It would not have, there's certain temperature levels you can't go below. You should never let that stuff freeze. So when I, and also when I pushed this one out, this was at the end of last year, instead of the little bit of Lexan like popping out, it popped this whole form out, which I've cleaned up a bit, but that needs to go back into the deck there. So there's a bit of a job there. The mats were over the top of them during the winter because when the sea water is still, you know, at 0 or just above 0, it's warming up relative to the -20 Celsius it can be out here. It's warming up the air inside the boat, and then that's warming up the underside of the deck here, the deck head, and then that melts the underside of the snow and ice that's on deck, and it creates a lot of hydraulic pressure which pushes water into cracks and holes. Obviously we go straight through that, and so to try and like remedy that slightly, I had these camping mats on top of it. It seems to have worked okay, everything's dry, but it's just kind of breathing off a bit now. So the ropes are out of the bags at the moment. It's one of those things where you start sort of standing here, having had so many months through the winter, where you're like, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that. You're back on board like, I'm not sure if I've decided that this is terrible or awesome. I'm not sure if I've decided that the boat's in a terrible state or if it's in an awesome state. I think things start to grow out of proportion in your mind, don't they? You start to think like, I am never going to finish this boat. It's awful. And then you get back on board and go, oh, actually, apart from a little bit of mold here and there, it's, you know, not too bad. So I've been enjoying that process, but there's clearly quite a bit to be done. I got to get these life rafts off and get them to Halifax. That'll be a case of probably backing the boat onto that dock over there, which used to be our dock. That was just grass and trees over there, but we can get half of the boat onto that dock, certainly the front half, put them on the dock, and then with carts take them up to the road, which is just up there at the house. Or I can maybe go around to the yacht club, or there's a few options here. I have actually done this job before solo, but these guys weigh 200 pounds each, and it can be a bit of a hassle. Basically, you have to lift them to the side deck, halyard them into the dinghy, take them out of the dinghy, put them in the trailer. You know the gig, it's hard work. So yeah, but the boat seems to be basically okay. Get those done. Okay, cool. Got to change the oil on the main engine, got to service the main engine, and then motive power is restored in a way that I want to kind of I don't want to just be driving around with like last year's oil and last year's trouble. I want to move past that. But yeah, on deck, feels pretty good. There's a couple of stanchions need some work, and long term I want to increase these stanchions from being 600 mil high to being 900 mil high, because it's just a completely different gig when you've got something that's coming in behind your thigh rather than coming in behind the back of your knee, you know what I mean? So engine here, let's have a quick see. Let me just turn this over. I've been cleaning everything up in here. The engine is okay. It's never been anything to really write home about on this boat, but it is what it is. I'm going to get along with the basics first. I think this area of the engine bay needs a lot of TLC. We bought this boat for a big project that then never happened, and it has been on the market for a couple of years. Now it's a case of what can we do with what we got, because no one wants to buy a boat like this, right? So I've got lots of ideas of what I can do with it, but we've got to get on with some basics first. So we've got the fuel transfer pump over on that side, which has basically never run since the first day I was on. The only time it's ever run successfully is when I came on board the boat for the very first day, put my bag down in the cockpit, came down here and started playing around with things, and oh yeah, what's this and what's that? And then someone said, oh, there's diesel on deck. And I turned everything back off again, and I had flicked the switch over there, which is the diesel transfer, and then the overflow goes up here and comes out on, sorry, up there and comes out on deck. And when that happened, my rucksack was directly beneath it with all of my receipts in. So it did work once long ago. It hasn't worked for ages. So I think reworking that transfer pump, get rid of that little oil filter, fuel filter down there rather. There used to be a generator here, which is gone. I'd very much like to get it back in here. It was a nice little whisper gen that the previous owner had. We never saw it. These massive members which are in here are part of that aluminum frame that goes throughout the boat. And that's what the engine's mounted onto. Obviously something's gone on with the generator, so they've just taken it off. I'd like to put a generator back in there. When I do, we've already got an exhaust. We've got the fuel filter. We've got the raw water intake and its swan neck over there. So everything's ready to go. It just needs doing. The ray core needs replacing. The strainer top's kind of damaged. So lots of tidy up business over there. Obviously inspecting and then cleaning the frame, clean the engine and get into it. It's a very reliable engine. It runs without any issues at all. We did have an issue a while ago, which really bamboozled me, which I thought for a long time was the gearbox had a lot of weird kind of, I'd never seen it before. Basically what was going on, it's easy to tell you now what was going on. We have a maxi prop on this, a variable pitch propeller, and basically the internals of that had screwed up and it was stuck just in the feathered position as though it was in line with the flow of water coming past the boat. And then when the propeller shaft turned, when the engine turned the propeller shaft, it was not angling to the flow at all. It was not angling to provide propulsion. It was just like a big paddle wheel. And basically what it would do is stall the engine and just chuck loads of black crap out the back as the engine was unable to rev. So we got past it in the end by realizing, oh, there's a problem with the propeller, and sorting that out. But I've got a leak on the gearbox cooler that needs sorting out. And then this foam we put on, like kind of an acoustic foam that's in here, got completely ruined over there when we had a high-speed diesel leak out one of the broken injector rail, and that's all been thrown away. So got some tidying up to do. But, you know, it can't be that hard. Bit dark back there in the nav station. We don't need to get into that now. The nav station on this boat's a bit of a funny one. The previous boat I had, Challenger, was a crude boat like this, but it had the previous owner had put a nav station in here. And when he did that, it kind of made it, you know, you come down the steps and there's a nav station, you go back up. And there's a lot in that I'd like to do. It's a great place to be sat and kind of operable. It's a very large space in here though. You know, we're 20 odd foot across in here. I think this is probably a better way of doing this. So I'm trying to understand now what I want to do. I think what I do want to do in here, not right now, but maybe after the Fastnet, before the Middle Sea race, I'm going to cut another aperture into that bulkhead, which is how it was originally. It was filled in. Get back to something like this. And then I'm going to come and have a look. The heads on this boat are enormous. It's such a massive size, like a shower, obviously. There used to be 2 of these bowls, from what I can tell. And I think it was really all to do with how the boat operated. It was set up for doing the round the world race. It never happened. So then it ended up doing corporate work in Venice with a lot of other boats, a lot of these which are still there. I think there's 3 or 4 of them there still doing it. And so this interior was put in with the idea of like, it's make, do, and mend for the crew and for the people that come on board. There used to be like some benches out here. There was, I think, a table here, a bench in the middle, then another table. So you could go for a sail, have something nice to eat, and it was quite nice inside the boat. But the boat back here is as original with the bunks and the layout. And then here it goes kind of corporate charter. Pick up my rubbish. And then into the bow up here is back to original again. So in this area, from my calculations, the entire interior on this boat now weighs about 1,000 kilos, something like that. And from what I can work out with the SATCOM system that used to be in here, with the lead blankets that would have been here, so you don't irradiate the crew because you've got very low angles, it's looking out through the side of the boat, same as the Volvo 60s, and with the batteries and all the gear that ran that, plus there was a big U-shaped galley in here, a couple more bunks and things. I think that was about 400, 500 kilos. So our interior weighs potentially twice what the interior used to weigh on this boat, but it's got a huge amount of usefulness to it, right? This bulkhead here has been added. It wasn't even here before. This was just an aperture. There was an aperture there. So lots has been added that's very useful, but it's also like not very useful. These cupboards up here are like supremely deep. It's just not that useful. So not that useful in terms of when we have sponsors on board and we're doing an event like the Fastnet or the Middle Sea Race or the Caribbean 600, which if you want to join, places are still available on those. Come and join us, come and sail. We're going to doing 3 events a year, which will help pay for the running of the boat. The rest of the time it's sponsorship and me doing my thing. But when there's 20 people on here, this makes a lot of sense. Apart from there's only one toilet. This is the only toilet on the boat. So I'm thinking we put a bulkhead here. We get rid of this super heavy door, which is an absolute nightmare in a seaway when this thing starts flapping around. Get rid of that guy, probably about the same weight as the bulkhead we'll put in. put a bulkhead here with foam board, and then put a hole there, and then have the toilet on that wall. So that your back's against that wall, and then there'll be something here. So again, in the event of a quick slowdown or indeed a collision, you're not getting thrown very far. And then there's another toilet over there, which is actually already sitting there upside down. See, it's under the shower, so it becomes like a wet toilet, you call it on a normal boat. And then the privacy is you have a piece of umbrella with 2 zips, and then you zip it up and go in, and then zip it down, and that's your privacy. And there'll be another one here behind me going through to the galley. And then to stop someone falling from the galley all the way through there, you get car seat belts, the automatic car seat belts. You rig it up here, and then you just have it so it comes across and clicks in there. It's what I had on my clipper boat, and it works very well. If you fall, you just get captured by that, but it's easy to get through and past it. So toilet sounds good. And then this area, to me, this is a very useful prep area when we've got people on the boat. I've got some great pictures. I'll throw one in here of the guys on the Newport Muda working here, the transatlantic working here. It's good, but it's got this fridge underneath, which is good for almost nothing. Microwave is pretty useful, and then like a massive gap down there. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to put top loading refrigeration in there. We've got 24-volt system. It will run very nicely off that. Lose the fridge. Keep it as a work surface on the top. Maybe keep the microwave here, or maybe rather put the compressor unit for the refrigerator here, and then put aircon below it. And the aircon is because then with that hatch open, I'm airconning the sail locker, and the ability to dry out the sails is very, very important, plus heat, plus cold and everything else. And then what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the cooking stuff in this area, and I'm going to make this for rigging. I'm going to put all my rigging gear in here, which I've got a lot. There's all the ropes. The ropes, the lines. Don't say ropes, Chris. That's not very sailory. Whatever. We're going to be putting all the ropes here, and then we can work here, which is where I tend to work anyway. If I have to work on a halyard, I drop it through this hatch and then work on it here. So I can kind of ratify that as being what goes on there. And then this flat stove is no good for being at sea. So we need to put like an oven in here or something. So sink, oven, rigging space, refrigeration, aircon. Makes a lot more sense to me. Toilet in there, shower if you want it. What a boon at sea to have that, right? And then toilet down there, accessible from over here. And probably put some storage or something here would be much better. So you can see there's kind of like plans developing of how I might make the boat better. But it's all happening right now. We've got as much chance of getting that done tonight as sailing to the moon. But look, we've got the lights on at the mast. I love it when the lights are on. I love it when the boat starts to come back to life. The engine's been on today. Not got much diesel in the boat. And as I say, the fuel transfer pump's good for nothing. And I do not fancy pumping hundreds of litres of fuel into the daytime. Well, hundreds of litres over time, 20 litres at a time, but there's a hell of a lot of pumps, it seems, on the hand pump. So I get the fuel transfer pump going. Get the deck sealed up. That's going to feel a lot better. And then when we go to the boatyard soon, we're going to be pulling the mast out, which is going to be a pretty amazing thing. And I'm hoping to get hold of someone who really knows these rigs, because this rig has got an unbelievable amount of, look at that, see the bend in it? Like, it's not unusual for race boats to have big bend in the rig. I'm not freaking out, but it's not normally in whilst you're static. It's something you do to curve the sail whilst you're at sea to change its shape and get more performance from it. But I want to get that sorted out. I want to get the rigging checked. And then before we go and do any big record stuff, I'd have the rigging changed out if I could for composite rigging, but that's way down the line right now. We got to get our new sails on. We got to service our rig, get the engine done, and then just tidy up. Like, I've got to get the deck, like painting this deck at the front, not that big a problem because it's quite open. But as we said before, we've got to start doing it in sections, and that's what getting the cockpit bags are off. Getting the cockpit bags off is the next deal on that, right? Get it all tidied up in there. And then I guess the last part of this is that in time, what I want to do is have a big kind of coaming put onto the boat here, some kind of like shelter, because my experience of going around the world last time was a cockpit that was the same depth as this. When you sit on the side deck with your legs bent, it's like 90 degrees. Yeah, it's the same depth cockpit as I went around the world last time. And last time, there was kind of a little bubble here on Spartan that came up to my belly button. So I had that much cover, belly button high from waves coming from the front. And the rest of it, you're just kind of looking out the back as like giant waves go up there. So I'd like a bit more protection this time, some kind of canopy that comes back over, even if it came over that bit there and left the big winches exposed. But really, you know, I want to have it so that I'm stood here and there's like a canopy here that's actually getting some spray out of my way. That's what I'd really like. But these are all things we've got time to do that. What we got to focus on now is the fastenet, and that means we've got to get our hull cleaned up, potentially get a wrap on there, get our branding on, get our anti-foul on, and get our rig service when we go to the boatyard. And my part of it is tidy up everything inside the boat now, get all the systems working through and tidy, and then after the boatyard, then we sail solo across the Atlantic, and that's when we can really do some work, because men and ships rot in port. Too much chatting, too much dreaming adds up to nothing, right? So tonight it's clean up the area here and get some sealant into the holes that I took the cockpit bags out through. I'm going to go inside the engine room, and the first part of my engine room adventure, I think, is going to be getting the steamer out. I have a little McCullough steamer, which if you watch any car detailing shows on YouTube, you'll know about those. And we'll steam all of this in here and strip that wall and rebuild the components, and then tidy the engine as best we can. That's kind of our job done there, until there's money enough to buy a generator and all the lovely things that everyone would want in the boat. But no, everything's on, everything's working, everything's kind of here. I was quite amazed the other day that the water maker flashed up so readily. Let me just make sure it's on now. It certainly surprised me. Yeah, oh, I'm ready to go. So I've got this water maker, which is, I think, can do 120 litres an hour. Is that right? Or 60 litres an hour? No, it's called a modular 60. That's right. It has two pumps. I can't remember if it does 60 at max or if it does 120 at max if you run both pumps. Whatever it is, it's certainly enough for one person. Got 400 litres of water, but I've also got another water maker I want to put in as a backup. I'm done with carrying all my water with me everywhere I go on these races. So yeah, that's today's update. If you're interested to come sailing with us on the Fastnet or the Middle Sea race, Fastnet is on July 27th of this year. We're going to be coming together around the 20th and doing sail training for, well, I guess 5 or 6 days. We'll have a day off in the middle of it as well. We have to qualify for the race. I'm only going to do 3 of these events a year now. I don't do the charter that I used to do. The opportunity to sail with the public is phenomenal, but if you get pushed into being a charter company, that's its own whole thing. I'm doing the racing, I'm doing the round the world stuff, I'm doing the solo things, and I'm doing the social media content here. So if you want to come and join us, there's going to be links down below. Coming soon, I've been kind of learning how best to present this opportunity, and I'll be giving more details about that soon. We'll have a little website, you can go and sort it out there, but you put down a sponsorship, and if you're here in Canada, you can actually give that to Wind Athletes, which is a charity, and get your money back for giving a charitable donation. So that's gonna be kind of cool, give people the opportunity to come sailing. That's what we want. But 100th Fastnet, this is the end of like 96 days to go or something, and I'd say all quiet on the Western Front here. Yeah, I'm going to go below. This is like halfway through the day for me. I try and work half in the daylight and half in the nighttime to always stay in that kind of vibe, that kind of rhythm when I'm on the boat. And then I'll go home tomorrow and be home for a night, and then I'll come back for a night, and that's how I keep flipping it backwards and forwards so I can maintain both my home life and stuff here. But yeah, this is the adventure. I hope you guys are enjoying this. If you are, please like and subscribe down below. It makes this really work out. For me, for you, get to see what's going on. Ask your questions, and I'm happy to take you through all this. And when I get my gumption up, we'll start doing live sessions as well. Give me some ideas down below. What's the best time for me to go live? I'm very naive to that. I don't really watch live stuff. I've never really done live stuff. What's a good time to go live so people can watch? Is it better at the weekends or something? I think probably it is. But that's all for me for now. Thank you very much for stopping by, and I look forward to speaking to you in the next one on day 95 to go before the Fastnet. Cheers.